Good morning and welcome to the Bobby Moore Stand. I'm Gary and this is the West Ham news today. A few headlines. So nothing has changed after the other night. Nothing at all, it seems. Loppy's profile's being raised again in the media. Sullivan's being praised almost for being patient. Starting's being hammered, as you'd expect. And what next? What next? What's going to come? What can we expect over the next couple of weeks? I'm going to dive into that and more. Until then, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Or if you watch our shows regularly, please subscribe. Give the video a like and hit the bell notification icon. Sorry, there's been a lack of videos the last couple of days. I've been ill. I've been ill since the weekend, and and Chris is off gallivanting around Slovakia or something, drinking a lot and whatever else with work. So yeah, I was laying down. I was laying down watching that Wolves game the other night, and I managed to lift my head to watch the first half. And honestly, sent me asleep again. Not making it up, it did. And then second half, yeah, I saw a bit of it, and I saw the highlights the next day and all that, and I recovered. I was sort of back to normal yesterday. But anyway, onwards and upwards. Enough about my problems. You've just seen the new intro, which we'll use on the live shows only because it's 23 seconds long. Wouldn't want to give you all the ump with a long intro. The intro for these sort of shows in future will be 6 seconds long, right? So it's a cut down version of what you just saw. And as you saw in that intro, we've launched a new logo as well. Hope you like it. It's a sort of rebranding that we're going through at the moment. And also you see it's lovely Christmassy design, which is only for December, obviously. Now, these are things that it took so long to get around to. It's been so busy with work and everything, but now we're ramping it up and we're coming up with some good ideas and things to do slightly differently come January, together with some new content. So I hope you look forward to that. Also the outro, I'm going to play. It's the same outro on every show for now anyway. I'm going to play at the end, obviously, and the music on that is brilliant. You got to hear it. But anyway, on with the show. So the other night, really nothing changed. What did we learn? We learned nothing. It was the same performance with the same problems we've seen all season. Vulnerable at the back, leaving ourselves open in wide spaces. Bowed out by a couple of absolutely cracking finishes from Tommy Soucek, who for some reason was completely unmarked at the far post. That wouldn't happen against many teams, but what a well-placed header that was. Brilliant. And also we're helped out with Bowen with another. He's done that twice now, I think. Actually, just passed the ball into the corner and net like that. Such a classy finisher, that guy. And Bowen as well. I really loved his enthusiasm, you could call it, at the end with that player who was losing his shit. He was, I think he's becoming more and more of a captain, of a lead figure, Bowen. I think he's been learning on the job, and I really like that bit of bite that he's showing. He speaks very well after games as well. I don't know if you've noticed. So, I think with him, I'm willing to give him time, and I don't think he can help the situation he's found himself in with the team and the manager. But he's doing his best, the guy, right? He couldn't do any more. A few half-hearted performances like Kudus, I thought didn't look interested till the second half. I thought he got on the ball in key areas in the first half, and when I thought he was going to do something special, he wasted it. I also thought on the other side, I thought Somerville was a little bit wasteful as well with his final ball. He seems to just pull up at the wrong time, like not make the decision to be aggressive. I think sometimes he needs to get his head down and run at these players rather than thinking twice. Maybe it's because he's the second or third choice at the moment. Who knows? Might be playing on his mind. But also we were lucky, let's face it. Wolves had a clear chance in the first half. Missed out on one, maybe two penalties, one definitely, from a very generous referee. It's really weird with VAR, isn't it? Because if the referee makes a decision on the pitch, this is the rules now, believe it or not. If the referee makes a decision on the pitch that it's not a penalty, then VAR need to find conclusive evidence that it is a penalty and take him to the camera. I thought for the second one there was conclusive evidence, so I was surprised on that one. First one was 50-50. But on the other hand, if the referee had have given both of those penalties, VAR would have looked at the film, looked at the camera and the playback and said, oh no, I can see why he's made that decision. And they would have gone with it. Right. So it's a bit of I'm not sure this is not what VAR was invented for. Well, we know why it was invented. Anyway, look, moving on. That was a good result and a bad performance. But always welcome a West Ham win, however it comes. because I do not want to get sucked into that relegation struggle, and we seem to be avoiding it at the moment, being a point of the diabolical Man United. Media backing of Sullivan. So we win a game the following day, irrespective of the performance. People start focusing on stats. Look how many shots we had. Look how much possession we had. Yeah, but it was still rubbish, wasn't it? It was still rubbish. Shots don't mean chances. It means shots. It means it can be a block shot on the edge of the box that was going vaguely towards goal, right? It can be anything. That's a shot. So shot on target, shot off target. So a small number of positive reports hitting the media. Number one about Lopetegui describing how Sullivan being patient is exactly the right decision, because you've got to look at the great results we've had recently, and they cite Man United, where we were lucky as hell, Wolves, where we were lucky as hell, and Newcastle, who, let's face it, in retrospect, didn't turn up. So, I think that was an anomaly, the Wolves result. We haven't seen a performance like this since. I mean, we went and got thumped at Leicester. Again, loads of shots, apparently. Don't know how many on target, but hey. But Sullivan still is determined to be right, and he'll continue to be determined to be right. And you've got to be aware of that as a West Ham fan, right? It's never going to change while he's here. Imagine being interviewed like Graham Potter or whatever, because we know he was interviewed. I don't know if they've interviewed anybody else, but saying like, "Oh, let's see if he wins first. Let's see if he wins first." What would that tell you about your new employer? I mean, they're supposed to be decision makers. They're supposed to be able to make an important decision. He can't, Sullivan, make an important decision, and he definitely can't make a timely decision, right? Sullivan will always run West Ham like a small business. I mean, since moving, he's lost important revenue streams from stadium sponsorship and food and drinks, right? That's all goes to the stadium now. He's gained in terms of zero cost maintenance to the stadium, right? Policing and all that. He pays low rent. Probably costs him less than it cost him to run Upton Park, I would imagine. But so it's a cost base reduced. The increased capacity, to start with, it delivered, because the prices were so low, delivered bugger all in terms of a revenue increase over the capacity crowd that we got each week at Upton Park. So now he's kind of targeting the last remaining few revenue streams he has, and that is, fans and Premier League. They're the two big revenue streams, with the Premier League being the most important. Staying in the Premier League, listen, it happened once under Everton Grant where we got relegated. It's not going to happen again. It'll never be allowed to happen again. He will act before something gets really, really severe. So winning a cup gave him the reason, the justification to rinse the fans. He's reset the age of retirement to reflect the government state pension age, as if that's a retirement age. It isn't really. To raise the ticket prices for everybody well above inflation and put that down, during the cost of living crisis, was just plain heartless. To push retired fans or people who've got concessions, new people who want new tickets, to push them in the farthest reaches of the stadium is just cruel. Why would you do that to either an OAP or a little kid? Why would you do that? They don't want fan involvement, him or Brady. They've got a special selected hand-picked group of fans that they talk to under NDA, and they do what they like where they're concerned. They just push them around to say what they like as a result of a meeting. I don't think that fan board or whatever it's called is allowed, other than to publish approved messages. So, that is what is limited on how he can increase his profits, and that's what that's what he'll continue to do. He'll continue to rinse the fans. He looks at the coach as his puppet. Moyes was his puppet. Lopetegui is his puppet. He loves having a puppet. He loves having somebody that the fans can hate to deflect the hatred away from him. That is what he likes. And Stuyton is the enemy, as stated many times. It's a game of Sullivan versus Kretinsky. And I think there's only one winner eventually, and we just need to be patient on that. It will be Kretinsky. Until then, Sullivan's going to keep calling the shots, but I don't believe for 1 minute that Kretinsky, who's kind of doubled his wealth, is now like something like the 10th or 15th richest man in the world. He's immensely wealthy. To think that someone like him will be taking instruction or direction from Sullivan on one of his investments, I don't believe he's going to let that be a thing for too long. I mean, Kretinsky, don't get me wrong, he ain't a warm, fluffy, friendly, fan-friendly person. He will try to raise ticket prices and maximize the asset as well. That is what he does. Look at what he's doing at Royal Mail, whatever. But to make there is a chance of making a much increased return on his investment at West Ham by owning the stadium, by owning the club outright, by with success, with a very well structured system inside of West Ham in terms of a proper director of football, in terms of proper, putting in place a system that's like Brighton, that identifies good young talent, nurtures it and gets it playing for West Ham and then sells it on. I don't really have a problem with that myself. It's the way of the world. But that is the way clubs survive and thrive and grow. Again, look at Brighton. Spurs should have been in that position as well, but too much wastage there too. Thank God. So Kretinsky will at some point want to maximise the investment that he's made into West Ham. And I think the only way he'll do that and stop Sullivan playing these silly little games, which I'm sure he's aware of by Tim, will be to take overall ownership of the club. And I think it will happen. It's just a matter of when. I think, the new governance coming in to football, the new rules that the government want to introduce, which were, the only time she stood up on the House of Lords, it's good to have a peerage, isn't it? So the only time she stood up in the House of Lords and commented on something was when it affected her personally, which is just typical for her sort of mindset, right? So she went along and pushed back on this new overseeing body that the government are trying to put in place, which is to protect football and protect football for the fans, which I think is a good thing. Well, basically, I don't care if it's a good thing or not. If she's against it, I'm for it. And that's where I stand, right? Because it's very likely that will give the right outcome for me and you and everybody that goes to watch West Ham. So they don't want people interfering in the running of football clubs, because of course they don't, right? There's a lot of, this is not just West Ham, this is across football. There's a lot of shadiness that goes on at the moment, with parties in between deals, multiple parties taking their little cut out. Won't bother speculating who, but it goes on. It's always gone on, and the EU are determined to clamp down on that. And that is I would say, the unofficial revenue stream for many clubs, and that is why some of the owners are involved in it. All right, be under no illusions. So look, we are where we are, and I think that if we look at the games that are coming up, this is my prediction, Psychic Gary, if you like. Bournemouth at home, they've got to take the game seriously. They know that, and they've got a great manager and a good team, and they score goals. They do come unstuck occasionally, but I think they're going to be up for this one. This is, Bournemouth at their home, right? Bournemouth away. Sorry. Tight little ground. If you've been there, very, very tight little ground. Smallest one I've seen, actually. I think it's even smaller than Brentford. And Brentford didn't feel that small, even though it was. So I think we're going to get it done away at Bournemouth quite easily. I think Brighton will come to our place because they love a win at London Stadium. In fact, they like a win against West Ham anywhere, don't they? Both teams play good football. They'll open us up. They'll expose our weaknesses. We'll get battered. But will Loppy still be there when we lose to Bournemouth inevitably? Yeah, I think he will, because Sullivan is looking at this as, if you go back to his revenue streams, the Premier League is his key revenue stream. He's only ever had one real, objective here, and that is to keep West Ham in the Premier League. That's not a bad objective to have, but at the same time, it's irrespective of the actual quality of what happens to deliver that outcome. And he don't care if we watch crap every week. He genuinely doesn't. As long as the points are on the board and it's safe, we're safely in the Premier League and still on the gravy train. Literally all he cares about. And I think if you want to understand him, you've got to think like that. You've got to understand where he's coming from, because that is where he's coming from. I wouldn't put it past him to keep Lopetegui on for the end of this season and next season. I just don't think it's going to come to that. Let me be straight, right? I think we will get done by Brighton and Bournemouth. I'd be very surprised if we get anything out of those two games. They're too good for us. And any good sides we lose to. So he'll be wobbling at that point. We lose those two games, and then he'll get another last chance saloon. That'll be Southampton away on Boxing Day. Southampton away, anything can happen. Now, this is the tipping point, I think. Southampton away on Boxing Day. If we lose that, I think he gets sacked. If we win that, I think again he gets saved. And then it will be given Liverpool and City as unwinnable. And then following that in January, we have Fulham and Palace at home. More chances to save himself. Must beat Fulham, must beat Palace. One of the two. Both of them are going to come to our place wanting a little bit of revenge, especially Palace. But very likely that one win there, Sullivan will be happy, right? He'll be happy. So I can't see him firing Lopetegui unless, if we lose to Bournemouth or even if we lose to Brighton. I think he'll be here for Southampton. I do think we'll get something at Southampton, whether it's a draw or whatever. Sullivan will take that as fine. I think he'll carry on with him unless there's an unexpected loss, like Southampton, like us losing Palace and Fulham at home. And I think the motivation is he wants to run down the transfer window. He doesn't want to spend any more money or even have the external pressure to spend more money. And Lopetegui is going to be demanding a striker, right? Well, we're linked with a loan for Callum Wilson at the moment. That's how far we've fallen. Stop him scoring against us, I suppose, wouldn't it? And that'd be a typical Sullivan January window where you see where we are. If we're safe, you don't spend. If we're not safe, you spend. He will also use that window as a way to basically use that as a stick to beat starting the way it has been all year. I think Todibo, Guilherme and Fulkrug will all be used sparingly, no matter how fit they are. I don't honestly think Fulkrug's going to get a run in the side. I don't. And I think he will use that, Sullivan. He will want Lopetegui there so that he's got justification to sell Kudus and Alvarez, who have recently fallen out very publicly with Lopetegui. It will be his reason to sell them because they don't get on with the coach. So that's where I think it's going. Generate loads of income and get a loan as a striker because we might be in a position where we're relatively safe. That will be good enough for Sullivan. The only time that narrative will change is if we're not safe. All right. So I think we've got to wake up and smell the coffee on this, right? We need new owners. We don't need another half-baked pick from David Sullivan or an extension to Lopetegui or anything like that. And when you look around you in the Premier League, it's now commonplace. Almost every single team in the Premier League have a progressive way of playing football. Upbeat, attacking. They're very intelligent coaches. People who can play multiple systems in a single game. These are people who react to opposition and what they're doing and the way the game changes throughout the 90 minutes. Unlike Lopetegui, unlike Moyes, unlike any other manager we've had, really. You've really got to buy into those new practices or you get left behind. And we are being actively left behind at the moment. It's just really us and Everton who play like this. And with Everton, it ain't going to be for long because they're going to move into that lovely new stadium they've got. Beautiful new stadium. And when they do that, they're going to realise they need to deliver the product to match the stadium and the capacity in order to fill it up. So they will. So that'll leave us scrambling around as the last remaining team playing this negative, crappy brand of football, which is the antithesis of why most of us started following West Ham in the first place. So yeah, look, that's my prediction. If I'm being honest, I think if I was to predict, I'd say we'll get stuffed on Boxing Day. Southampton will have a party and it will get sacked then. But if we don't, I predict he carries on until at least the end of January. Just my prediction. All right. So time for a new regime, I think. It is literally the only way forward. So Lopetegui out, Sullivan out. Obviously, Sullivan can't sack himself. There's only one man that can do that, and that is Daniel Kuczynski, making him an offer he can't refuse. Get him out, get Brady out, get the kids out. This can't be a Sullivan legacy. We've had bad owners before that we didn't like very much. Mr. Brown. And so it's not the first time. We don't always like our owners, our club owners, but I don't support West Ham for the owners. I support it because it's West Ham. It's that invisible entity, that West Ham that I love. And so, on that basis, I think that is where our attention needs to go if this misery doesn't end. It was obviously a bad time to do it on Monday because of Mickey and everything that happened to Mickey. And by the way, he seems to be recovering and getting better. I don't, and the club are looking occasionally. They do a decent thing, and they're looking at extending he's got 1 year option to his contract. We're looking at extending that. I don't think that's so as you get game time. That's for his security, which I think is not a bad thing. That's actually a nice thing to do, right? So, so that's that'd be a well done to the club from me from doing that. But yeah, well, you never know. Next season he could be our starting striker again. Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, look, that is me done. Now I'm going to play the outro, which you're going to love this music. You're going to really like it. See you soon. Come in your hands.